The Essenes had withdrawn from civilization into an apocalyptic landscape that reminded them at every moment that the end was near.
There are here deep echoes from the biblical times, reminding them that this had been a land which God had given to Israel, and he had purged it of foreigners. And now here were the foreigners ruling once again. So what was to be done about this? This required some drastic new thing. So the notion arose that there must be some final act introduced by God himself through his chosen messengers or chosen community that would make things right again. There must be an end of days. There must be a last time when all would be made right.
To the scrolls, you certainly would say that they were this wilderness messianic movement. That is, they're waiting for the Jewish Messiah. They're out in the wilderness trying to be pure, to withdraw from the corruption of the culture, the Greco-Roman culture, with the Romans and Jerusalem being defiled by a corrupt priesthood. Everybody out here agreed on one thing: we hate the religious establishment up the hill. In fact, I think a good name for these people, rather than Essenes, is the Wilderness New Covenanters, but it's too hard to say. They talk about a new covenant. They have baptisms, or mikvahs. They have dippings, water dippings. They believe that they're out in the wilderness waiting for the Messiah. They have a community of 12, a council of 12, and then an inner group of 3. And if you recall in the Gospels, Jesus chooses 12, and then Peter, James, and John are the inner group of 3, that he quite often goes off alone with. They have sacred meals. They denounce the religious establishment and so forth. I listed out one time 24 parallels like that, where the ideas are just, they talk about the Holy Spirit, we are the people of the last days, and so forth. And yet their basic ideas of be pure, prepare the way of the Lord in the wilderness, the new covenant is coming, the Messiah is coming. They're very big and very strong in talking about the chosen ones. We are the elect, the chosen ones. I think this is the birth of the movement out here, not in the city. Jesus is from Galilee. He's rural. I think he's wilderness-oriented. And people don't notice in the Gospels, he goes out to the wilderness. Most people would say, if you ask, when did Jesus go out here? And they'd say, well, the temptation. Then he went back and lived like a city boy. That's not the case. War broke out, the Jewish war with the Romans in the year 66, that everybody had to decide what they're going to do. It's like Israelis today, which side are you on in terms of, the political questions and so on? Well, they had their political questions, sharply divided. There were Roman collaborators, there were Roman resistors, but the religious communities had to take a stand. There's a war going on, people are dying. The Romans are systematically, they're going to come down this road, whatever road there was, everybody's wanting to go to Masada, down south. It's the big fortress. If you hold that, you can help hold out for the whole. So I think what happened in terms of the archaeological evidence is the Romans got this place and wiped it out, killed everybody.
In your opinion, concerning these scrolls, what's at stake here for Christianity and Judaism?
We have a theory, and we've had it from the beginning, and what we're seeing confirms our theory more and more rather than makes us doubt it. That is, we feel that this movement, the movement we have here, is really the better name for it than Essene or even Zealot, is the Messianic movement in Palestine. We've said that this literature is tremendously messianic. At the beginning we were seeing documents having to do with 2 messiahs, but we were also seeing documents having to do with a single Judeo-Christian style Davidic Messiah too. And in the unpublished materials we're even seeing more of this kind of material relating to a kind of normative Judeo-Christian Davidic style single Messiah. And if you read your Josephus, the historian of this period who wrote the Jewish war carefully, you'll see that Josephus says in one passage of his book about the war against Rome that the thing that most moved the Jewish people to revolt against Rome was the prophecy that a world ruler would come out of Palestine. That tells us that they were moved by the messianic prophecy, and that the revolution against Rome that we often think of political was in fact not simply political, but religious and messianic. We think we have here the literature of the movement. We don't say it began in the 1st century. It leads up from the Maccabean period in the 2nd century BC on up through the Herodian period into the 1st century. We think we have here the literature of the messianic movement. We have, for instance, a very law-oriented group here. We have a very militant, aggressive group here. We have a very nationalistic group here. In Christianity that we normally think about, we think of a cosmopolitan, non-law, Gentile-oriented Christianity. So the kind of group we have here is quite different than what we normally think. We also have an anti-Pharisee group here of extreme proportions, and probably an anti-rabbinic group, the successors to the Pharisees. And that is another thing that's somewhat gummed up the works, because really this is a third way. This is not the rabbinic Jewish way. This is not the Pauline Christian way. This is more of an apocalyptic, even evangelical, if you like, a more of an apocalyptic zealot way.
This group believed that prophecy, biblical prophecy, is being fulfilled before their eyes. So they would open their holy books and then look out and say, yeah, this is what the prophet speaks of right here. And so they would write almost as something would happen.
Shalom lo boy no boy, Im Hashem lo yishmori, Shalom katchoimer. Im Hashem lo yirne bayis, Shalom lo boy no boy, Im Hashem lo yishmori.